Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Revive Call of the Abyss, the expansion to Revive from Aporta Games. Now, I imagine this is going to be a fairly short video because I'm going to tell you what Revive Call to the Abyss does. I'm not going to go into the base game. I will assume you know that. If not, feel free to check out my previous video. I've already done a full review on the base game, and there's a lot of content out there, how to plays, reviews, opinions, all those various things are out there already. I'm going to be talking and focusing about Call of the Abyss, how it adds to the base game, what it does, and my overall opinion of it. So, to that end, Revive is a Euro game. You're doing a bunch of things to try to get as many points as possible. Ultimately, you're going to be playing a lot of cards and then trying to build out on this board over here. You're going to be expanding with these buildings, with these people, flipping over new tiles, and ultimately playing a lot of cards to your own board in order to try to get as efficient an engine as possible. That's kind of what I'm going to go into the base game. Again, lots of content out there for you to check out to see what's going on there. The new things that the Call of the Abyss expansion adds is just that primarily is going to be adding this devotion track along the edge. So we have a new track that's being added to the game, this devotion track, and there's a few things that are going to interweave with this track over here, but ultimately, as you move up the track, you're going to be getting points. So similar to this regular point track, you're still getting points on this track over here. You do have the opportunity that whenever you get points, you can trade them in at a 2-to-1 ratio for devotion, and vice versa. Whenever you get devotion, you can trade it in at a 2-to-1 ratio for points, but you're going to be trying to get these various bonus, specifically over here, here, and here. You're going to be getting these cards over here, and these cards are effectively a new set of cards that are wild. These always count as every color in the game, and they tend to be a bit stronger than your basic cards, so it gives you a new way to get cool, powerful cards in the game. You'll draw two, you'll pick one. You can pick this as whatever color you want when you play it, thus triggering various bonuses on your board, but you can also pick it as whatever color you want when you're going to endgame, which means either way you can try to maximize the color of those cards. You're also going to have this middle spot over here where you're going to add another one of these end city tiles over here. These large cities are going to go over here, and as players cross that line, they'll have the opportunity to get onto that track over there. And then lastly, a few new ways to go ahead and score those in the game. So it's a new devotion track, and you're trying to go up that track as much as possible. As far as how do you go up the track, well, there's going to be a bunch of things that are interweaved into the game. There's going to be new content for the game, new cards, new tiles, new tokens. All these various things are going to be added to your game experience, so you have new ways of gathering and I keep saying interweaving, but connecting with the various new aspects of the game. So you will have new stuff in general, but a big part of the way you're going to go up the track are going to be these cards over here. You're going to have these journey cards over here that are going to give you a way of earning points on the devotion track, and specifically the way these all operate is they're going to go ahead and give you a criteria you're going for, in this case crates, and if you have 2, 3, or 4 crates, you'll get 2, 3, or 4 devotion accordingly. But in order to get one of these cards, you have to flip your marker over here, this marker that usually gives you a resource of your choice. Instead, you can flip that to be able to take one of these cards. You have to give up a card of the matching color. It's a good way to get rid of your starting cards in the game because your other cards can be worth points. Starting cards not quite as much. And then at any point you can trade this in, flipping it down, to achieve the devotion ability, as well as getting one of these symbols for any of your either endgame scoring or in-game abilities that count those. So it's just another way of getting devotion. You're trying to time it, you want devotion earlier, because devotion feeds into these other things you get in the game, but if you wait and hold off a little bit, maybe you'll get more devotion out of those same cards. That's pretty much what the expansion is adding. One more thing to cover though, because again, a few things mixed in and then this devotion track. We also have these lakes over here. There's going to be 1, 2, 3 lakes that are going to be mixed into your puzzle, and these are going to give you a different way that you have something on the board. First of all, it kind of breaks up the distance between regions. You can't count distance through these lakes, and they're going to break up the way the board is trying to be presented over here. So you have just one more thing you need to be mindful of as you play. But over here, the way the lakes work is when you build buildings next to the lake, you're going to get devotion. So again, another way to get devotion. But additionally, whenever you take a hibernation turn, whenever you refresh over there, you're also going to get the bonuses if you have the buildings next to these lakes. So building out next to the lakes can be a good way to get both devotion early game, but also to go get various bonuses as you hibernate across the game. You get early placement around lakes, and you can start getting a bunch of bonuses in the game. And that is what the expansion adds. So let's talk about my thoughts on it. Let's talk about what it adds. Do I like it? Does it add to the experience? How do I feel about the overall expansion? And the short version is, it's a good expansion. It's a very good expansion. I like what the expansion adds. I don't think it drastically changes the way I play with the game. Not by a long shot. It's a few small rules and adjustments that add on enough that it doesn't feel like a It doesn't really feel like a small expansion, but nor does it feel like a large expansion. It's a medium expansion. It adds a few new things that do change the various levers you're pushing as you try to optimize how many points you get in the experience. I do like the lakes a lot. Those give you something else, again, something to focus on both for the devotion and for the scoring aspect, as well as the way it breaks up the map. My biggest complaint here is I kind of wish they were double-sided, like either giving you more lakes or at least make them double-sided so you have a drop more variability about the various bonuses you get. Not a big deal. Again, I think there's a limit to how much real differences there are, but I think there could have been more things that you did with those lakes. So just like if they would have made them double-sided, that would have been an easy win for me as far as that goes. Past that, I'd say that also this devotion track, I love these cards. They have a fancy name like Shizzle's cards. I can't pronounce. They have a name for the cards, but these cards I love. I think they're great cards. It gives you something to get out of jail free card because you always have the card of the color you need. You can counter whatever color you want at the end of the game, and they're also just powerful cards. I like those cards, and so I think having a full devotion track and a way to earn those cards is another nice little thing in the game. The one thing I don't like is I don't like how this is so early on. I kind of feel that, and maybe this will change. Maybe you'll have different experiences. I kind of feel like the tile they add to the game, everyone's going to get it. I have not seen a game where this tile wasn't gotten by every single player, and especially because it's endgame points. It's not even like an in-game thing, it's an endgame point, so it's kind of a free, it's a gimme. It's not you have to plan your game around it, of course, because, hey, if I know I'm getting points for that, I want to try to modify other aspects of how I play. So I'm not saying it doesn't affect the game, but it's effectively a gimme of endgame points that every player is going to get. You may as well have said, hey, by the way, here's this tile, everyone's getting points for this, enjoy. Which again, still does impact the way you play the game. I'm not saying it has no impact, but it feels like something you earn, and at least for me, for our group, for our games, everyone gets this tile. And so I think that's the one thing I really would have liked to see. Again, even the lakes having more variety to them, I don't think would change as much. I really wish that tile were either a bit more challenging, or even just they had in-game things, because in-game benefits would affect the way and the timing of how fast you get it, as opposed to, hey, here's something that's only relevant to the end of the game, and you're definitely going to get it. Just doesn't feel like a competition or a reward so much as just the fact that you get it. Although I guess to be fair, I should point out that you are placing a person from your own player tableau onto that board over there, and so that's going to be a factor as far as, you know, the timing of when you get the ability from your personal player board. So there is a bit of a timing aspect. Speaking of which, a aspect that I completely forgot to talk about, and I'm glad we're talking about now, are going to be the new factions over here. You're going to have 4 new factions added to the game, each of them with their own complicated rule system abilities, and I will say this is both a pro and a con for me, or I should say it's a pro that could have been more pro, I don't know. I think these are great. I think there's 4 new expansions, 4 new ways, not expansions, factions, 4 new ways for you to try to figure out what your own pathway to victory is, how you interact with this puzzle, and what you're good at. I just like having more variety. You already have the ones from the base set, which include the 4 basic ones, plus the ones you'll unlock in the campaign, plus the other sides of those, all of that, but these add 4 more. They're single-sided over here, so nothing there, but 4 more of these over here, each giving you a nuanced way to interact with the system. The only complaint here is that they are a little complicated. Like, they don't feel simple and elegant. They feel like, hey, read this board, then go to the rulebook and read the reference manual of how they operate. They offer various tokens, various ways they change. Like, almost all of them, I think all of them have their own little component changed to them, but they all give you a more complicated way of interfacing with the game. They don't feel elegant, they're fun. I like them, I'm happy they're here, but you have to read a bit of a manual of like, okay, great, you got this ability and this, and also you have these 4 tokens, and then these tokens will flip when you have a hibernation turn, but also you go ahead and flip this. They're a little more complicated. They will require like learning the game, learning the expansion, and then every player taking like, you know, a good 3-4 minutes to be like, okay, how exactly does my new faction work? So again, still a pro, but I don't know, I would have loved if they could have had something that wasn't as complicated. Sometimes that's just the cost of doing business. When you add more stuff, in order for it to be different, it has to sometimes be complicated. So I don't know if it could have been better, but overall I do very much enjoy them. I think the common trend I have with almost everything being added in the Call of the Abyss expansion is everything here is good. Everything they added is good. In some ways, shapes, or forms, I could argue that aspects could have been better. I would have rather have more or double-sided lake tiles. I would rather have this be higher up the track or have more of an in-game benefit as opposed to an end-game benefit. I'd rather the various faction abilities be different while also being elegant as opposed to feeling a little bit more fiddly and complicated. But at the end of the day, all these would-rathers are kind of just nitpicks. I like the expansion. I like what it does. There's nothing here I wouldn't play with. It's all just good. It's more stuff to the game. I'm specifically being nitpicky to well, for the sake of, I mean, this is a review after all. I'm trying to both be fair about what I like while also talking about where it could have potentially have done better. So, where am I in the expansion? What do I rate the expansion? So, I'm trying to rate expansions slightly differently than I have in the past. This is inspired very much by Cascadia Landmarks, which is an expansion that, to me, didn't make Cascadia better, but also didn't make Cascadia worse. And so I was like, Cascadia's a 5 out of 5, so I guess Landmarks is also, I don't know. Either way, I'm trying to rate expansions now, not based on the base game, but rather how I feel about what the expansion did as far as adding to the experience. So, for me, Revive is a 5 out of 5. Revive is a 5 out of 5, and that's true with the expansion. The expansion definitely still keeps Revive at a 5 out of 5. It doesn't make the game worse, not by any means. Arguably, it makes the game better. But for me, if I'm rating the expansion, if I'm rating Call of the Abyss, I think I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5, as far as an expansion goes on its own, not factoring the base game, because the entire package is still a 5 out of 5 game for me. I love this game system. I think it's really great, and I always have my head deep into the puzzle of optimization that I'm trying to achieve here, and so I still very much have that. I think the reason Revive Call of the Abyss to me is a 4 out of 5 is I really enjoy the expansion. I think it does good things and it adds to the experience, but it's not a game-breaking expansion that I feel is essential. I think if you liked Revive before the expansion, you'll like Revive after the expansion. I think it just leans into slightly more different ways to approach the same core puzzle. Not so much that it's overbearing or complicated or fiddly, but also not so little that it's meaningless. It's a good middle ground, a good expansion. I definitely recommend it if you enjoy Revive and you want a little bit more. I recommend it. If you enjoy Revive and you're intimidated by a little bit more, I don't think this is that overbearing. I just think it's overall a good expansion to an already great game. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.